in my own school. And so that goes back to 1997. And I love the assessing, and I love serving ICF by assessing applicants for their credentialing. And I have a particular heart and passion for mentoring. And what I love about it, this collaborative learning process, is I get to work with groups, yes, but also with individuals in their development of their mastery in demonstrating these ICF competencies. And this is personal development work, and it's also skill development work. And I love that process that we're in together, growing, deepening, and learning together. Heidi?
Fran, especially since you're one of the early visionaries of ICF, can you explain with a concrete example the difference between mentor coaching and coaching supervision? I find myself conflating them sometimes, and I think that would help me to kind of find my path to go in one of the directions. So since it's on the slide, I was hoping you could explain it. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a challenging one because for me, they do a bit of overlapping. I mean, when I'm mentoring, I'm bringing in supervision too. I'm not trained and supervised as certified as a that in supervision. But Carly, can you help me out here?
I can if you want me to, Fran. I'm here to support you.
And I'm inviting you to support me.
Okay. The difference is, and Fran has put it up here beautifully, mentor coaching is whole coaching sessions. So it's receiving feedback based on observed or recorded sessions to support them. And supervision can be more situational, where it can be about going through situations a coach is facing in their coaching, and then it has different, and I'm a trained supervisor as well, and there are different processes, and I'm totally with Fran. They overlap. You can't take the person out of the skills. You have to deal with that in mentoring. But that's what, and ICF have two different competency sets for mentor coaching and coaching supervision. But that's really a key difference maker between the two.
Oh, that's so helpful, Carly. Thank you. Yeah. So supervision is more about the person, the coach, and mentoring, this is very broad brush. Mentoring is more about developing their coaching skills mastery and their skills mastery with the competencies. Does that help?
It
Heidi,
does.
was it
Thank
Heidi?
you. Thank you. I think also just sharing that it's about an actual session, right? Like that is a huge defining
Yeah,
difference for me. I've had both, but I found supervision to be more reflective to me as the coaching client. And I found that when I was in that scenario, it was a little overlap because I was being triggered by a client who was dealing with elder care, and I had just lost my parents after dealing with elder care, right? So that was where I needed to kind of work through that. But that's where I
exactly.
think it was a perfect example, as you described, where it was a little of both. And that's why I was struggling with how to define it in my own way. So thank you.
Yes. And we have coaches now who specially train and supervise and is certified in supervision, and it's uh, their specialty. Mentoring is my specialty. All right. So,
Fran, there's just one note that I want to call out. Diane
okay,
says, my understanding is that ICF mentor coaching is focused on feedback focused on the core competency, where supervision is much broader. Carly, would you
Okay.
say that's aligned?
Well, or more deeper about the person of the coach would be my take on that. I don't know, broader, maybe. Okay, so I'm teeing you up for an exercise we're going to do here, focusing on being who you're being as a mentor. And I call it the secret sauce because if you'll turn to page 4 in your manual that I sent everyone, or we sent you, if you'll turn to page 4, I've listed on that page, you'll see bulleted reflections that I received back from my mentees, acknowledging me for what worked for them and who I was being. So if you'll turn to page 4, you'll see at the top of the page, the secret sauce is being embodying and demonstrating a blend of experience, knowledge, structure, certainly compassion, and deep listening that engenders the client's trust in the mentoring process as well as you as their mentor. So there's a second paragraph on that page. I don't have it. Let's see, do I? No. Okay. I don't have it on the screen. There's a second paragraph there. Do you see it? It starts with as a mentor, that really describes the essence of who you want to be being as a mentor. Who'd be willing to unmute and read that out loud for us?
I will.
Thank you.
As a mentor, make it your intention to offer deep insights and ways of perceiving that help clients see beyond the coaching conversation and look deeply at themselves and who they are being. Be clear and straightforward with prospects that the entire coaching mastery journey is a personal growth process. It's a soul's journey for releasing attachments to ego and reaching higher levels of human consciousness. And it is an ongoing journey, not a destination.
Thank you, Nina. Emphasis, not a destination. So what we're going to do is an exercise here, and I call it the 5 qualities tool. I'm going to tee up this exercise with my story of a tool called the 5 qualities. Who do you want to be as a mentor coach? Your exercise is going to be choosing top 5 essential qualities from these words and phrases that are listed on page 4 and page 5 of your workbook. Okay, so here's my story. So this is a tool that you can use to start your year, your day, or prepare for a challenging situation. You identify 5 qualities, no more, no less. See the 5 fingers on your hand? And so what are examples of qualities of being? You know them well as a coach. So your coachee is being bold. You notice that. They're being compassionate, courageous, kind, caring, right? Qualities of being. I taught a coaching client this tool, and she practices setting her being intentions every morning. She starts her day that way. And I had an executive client years ago who learned this tool to prepare for board meetings, meetings with his boss, or meetings with his team. He would try to memorize his bullet points. And I introduced him to this question, who do you want to be being in the room? And he learned that as a tool, and he found that when he focused on who he wanted to be being, and he was being that in the room, he didn't have to memorize those bullet points. So the first time I used this tool was in 2017. I was delivering a team coaching training in Israel. I was delivering this training to an audience speaking Hebrew. I worked with an interpreter, and I had an audience of 160 coaching students and graduates of this particular school. I got to tell you, my friends, I was really nervous and I felt stretched out of my comfort zone. But what I did was I chose my 5 being qualities. I chose transparency. I wanted to be showing up as authentic and authentically. Now, those 2 are pretty easy for me. I get feedback pretty consistently on my transparency and authenticity. But then I also chose playfulness. That was a stretch for me. Really being lighthearted and lightness and having fun. That was a stretch. I also I used the word containment. What my commitment was that I would have the ability to contain whatever showed up in that room. And I've got to tell you, that was tested. And then my 5th one was clarity, because it was a stretch for me to be clear, giving instructions for an exercise in front of the room in my school, my classrooms. So these were my key intentions for who I wanted to be being and how I wanted to show up. I wrote those qualities in the palm of my hand with a ballpoint pen. It was like tattooing them there, but they were private for me. No one else knew what they were. And if I got, nervous, I could look at the palm of my hand and reground myself with these qualities of being, these intentions. So now, but wait, there's more. You've got to know about this. So this was a 4.5-day team coaching training that I was delivering. At the wrap up of the training, the owner of the school went to the front of the room, and I moved clear to the back of the room and sat down. She made eye contact with me across the room and acknowledged me in front of those 160 coaches and graduates. Quote, she said, "Fran, you were 4 days of 100% pure being." I've got to tell you, friends, that went deep. It went so deep. All right. So then it was over, and the participants lined up at the door to acknowledge me. This was part of the culture of their organization, or whoever their guest was. They stood at the door, and every participant would acknowledge them personally as they left the room. The participants lined up to acknowledge me as they were leaving. Now, imagine my surprise when they acknowledged me, and they said it in English. They acknowledged me for my transparency, my authenticity, my playfulness, and one of them even used the word containment. That was my word. And my clarity in English. So what did I take away? The power of intention. Right? I'm seeing heads nod. So the participants of my mentor training program, Advanced Certified Mentor Coach Training Program, their pre-course exercise is to identify their 5 qualities of who they want to be being as a mentor. Okay? So now you have page 4 and you have page 5, a whole list of qualities. Let me take this down. You have a list of qualities to choose from. So circle what stands out for you or check marks, mark up your pages and pick out words that may be a stretch, or maybe you just want to own fully, this is a gift of who you're being and who you want to take forward into your mentoring. So we're going to give you a few minutes, and on the next page, following those sample being qualities, you have a space to fill in your 5 quality-focused intentions for mentoring.
Fran, as people are finishing, should we have them put their top 5 in the chat?
Yeah, I like that, Heather. Go ahead and name some of the qualities you chose in the chat. Achiever, adaptive, adventurous, empowering, magical, acknowledging, honoring, collaborative, connected, specific. Authentic, dedicated, safe. Oh, lovely. Stimulating, graceful. Okay, let's hear from someone. What did you notice about the experience of choosing? How was that for you? Anyone?
Yeah, I was comparing it to when I ask clients to do like a values-based exercise where they kind of choose their values. And I was like, wait a minute, your values are what you're supposed to be grounded with. But I was like, oh, on this, I get to actually choose which qualities I want. So I was having a little bit of like, is that actually what I am, or is that what I just want to be? So
Yes.
that was
Well,
interesting. Yeah.
that is, yeah. So that was your process. Yes. For me, it was the power of in setting intention. So I gave myself permission to intend, and it worked powerfully. Thanks, Jamie. All right. So we are going to move on to some doing. Where's the share? And you might move on to page 9 and 10. So I've picked out a few tips for you, some guidance on the doing of being a mentor. Certainly celebrating strengths and opportunities for development. I personally love that phrase. We do not use the word improvement in our language as mentors. And I like to call them opportunities for development um, because it says what? No right or wrong. It's an opportunity for gaining greater mastery. Yeah. And so one thing that I really make an effort of doing is offering a variety of modalities in your mentoring, because there are people who are very highly kinesthetic, they're auditory, they're visual. And my intention of offering a variety of modalities has stretched me. And so I find exercises, visuals, I bring in a variety of modalities to meet my mentees where they are and how they learn best. One of the things I do is I don't dive right into a contract with an individual mentee. I have that first session be 100% orientation, so that we have a picture and a plan together in partnership. Now, when it comes to reviewing recordings, I have a particular preference. And those of you who are already mentoring, you will probably agree with me on this, that I ask my mentees to review their recording and their transcript prior to sending it to me, and also prepare what they believe 2 or 3 of their strengths are that they have demonstrated, and also 2 or 3 opportunities for development. So when we get together for a debrief, their feedback session from me, I ask them to share first. And that way, I can build on and celebrate what I can agree with, and what they have done well in their listening and their noticing and their learning for themselves. Now, here's a little tip that I picked up from my very first coach mentor, and that was Laura Whitworth. Some of you may know her. She's not with us anymore, but I met Laura and Henry when they were founding CTI, and so I took all of their courses in the early days. Anyway, she was my coach, my mentor, and my trainer. We were all wearing all the hats. Right, Carly? Anyway, so sometimes my mentee would say, "Oh, I'm so proud of myself. I did this and I did that. My client loved it." And Laura would say to me, "Well, Fran, this might pinch a little." And so I have used that, and I'll say, "You know what? This might puncture your balloon, because I have a different perspective on that." And it worked so well for me because I could prepare myself in my listening for hearing the hard feedback. And it works. And my mentees like it. Unfortunately, I don't have to say that very often, but I just thought I'd pass along that little hot tip in case that's new for you. So I debrief the client's self-reflections, and then I share my feedback. And what I like to do is always record those feedback debrief sessions and send my mentees a copy of those recordings. That way they can revisit for their learning afterwards. When I provide written feedback, and this is what we learned as assessors, we want to be very specific with examples, not just, "Oh, you did a great job of listening." We don't generalize, we be as specific as possible. So we might go to that timestamp on their transcript and read the sentence, read the learning, the leading question that I'm giving them feedback, or we go to the timestamp. I like to do skill drills with the transcript. Here's how you responded. I'm giving you feedback that's, for example, a leading question. Why is it leading? And we look at what their client offered them. And then we readdress, how could you have done that differently? So we'll walk through with real material. that make sense? Anyone want to make a question or a comment about what I'm saying? I always conclude my training classes as well as my feedback debrief sessions with what learning intention will you take forward? And sometimes my mentee will have 2 or 3 that they want to focus on. Now, here's something else in terms of feedback. I make it a point to never give more than 3 opportunities for development because it gets overwhelming for a mentee. And sometimes I have a long list of opportunities for development for that mentee, a long list. So here's what I do. I look at all of those and I ask myself, which one, no more than 2, maybe 3 at the most, if they focused on that skill or that competency, would bring them the greatest return on their investment of time and effort and practice. Because those competencies, you all know this, whether you're already mentoring or not, those competencies overlap. You know, you do one well, and it might demonstrate a couple of other competencies that they as well. Am I making sense or am I babbling? Thanks, Carly. Yeah. So feedback guidelines, I've probably covered some of them already. As ICF assessor, we were trained in how to give, and Carly was part of the the committee that designed our training, our assessor training. I can still remember back in the day, Carly, when we were getting skill drilled on our mentor feedback guidelines. So obviously it's going to be respectful. We had to learn a language that is respectful. So there's no, I'll get to that here somewhere. There's no evaluative language. Somewhere here it probably says that. Oh yeah, I'm getting to that. All right. So what we learn as an assessor is to start with the mindset. If you are mentoring ACC, PCC, or MCC level, it makes no difference. You're always, as an assessor, going to start with a mindset before you even read or listen to that recording that it's already demonstrating that level. And I had to work at that because my Myers-Briggs is a J, so it's pinned to the wall judger. I'm born with that brain wiring. And I had to really, really work at learning how to get my mindset assuming that this is well demonstrated. And then listen for the strengths and the opportunities for development. The other thing that we learn is to listen. So this is what I'm passing along to you as a way to listen as a mentor. You want to listen for how the coach responded to what the client authored. Be aware of your personal triggers or biases so that you can manage those. Notice them when you feel getting triggered or biased. I used to have a really strong trigger / bias about coaches who used a lot of, oh, what do we call them? Nonverbals. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Right, right, right. Yeah. And I would get so triggered by those that that it would get in the way of it'll get in the way. All right. Well, later on, I learned that yes, typically those nonverbals will interfere with the flow. They'll interfere with energy flow. And then I noticed sometimes that coaches' nonverbals did not interfere with the energy flow. So I got to a point where I could I could manage my bias and listen uh, for the truth about what was really happening there. Also, we probably have our own preferred style or opinions or preferences, so we have to manage those as mentors as well as assessors. And I already mentioned this. What I do is I only pick a maximum of 3 opportunities for development, even though there might be so many more. It's really hard to help a mentee come back from down under if they get overwhelmed. It's really hard to bring them back to square one and be open for listening and receiving. So here's the neutral tone feedback. Neutral language when identifying strengths as well as opportunities for development. So neutral language, I like to say, for example, consider for further development being more curious. You know, I like that word consider. I'm not telling them what they should have done differently. Avoid comments that tell the coach what to say instead of, and avoid telling them. What I like to do is say, here's some examples of what you could have done differently, and offer 2 or 3. Because if I only offer one, they walk away and think that's the way I should do it. And we avoid evaluative words such as, you did a really good job. No, that evaluates. Avoid approval judgment words like, I love when you did XYZ. We avoid those. What I like to do instead, among other things, is ask my mentee, what could you have done differently there in response to your coachee? What could you have done differently that didn't evaluate or approve? So those of you who are well versed in working with neutral language, what would you like to contribute here? Samples, examples. Maybe raise your hand or put in the chat.
Are there other examples of neutral language anyone else wants to share?
It sounds like if we're overall coach-like with them in the session, that's kind of the approach to take, right? If we're coach-like.
Exactly.
Fran, I'll offer too is we're in such a privileged position as mentors that and this is word called feedback. And if I say the word feedback, most people have like, ooh, it's
They're
not a
afraid.
very
Yeah.
good association. People get feedback and organizations give feedback like, I want to give you some feedback. And then they give their opinion. And it's really a challenging thing. So, neutral language, especially even around the word feedback. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Fran, about the word feedback and how you desensitize people to, you're going to get feedback on your coaching?
Well, one thing I do is I use the term debrief. I don't use feedback. This is our debrief session. Yeah, I don't even use the word feedback now that I think about it. Yeah, thanks, Carly.
in the chat, I thought this was really good from Merle. It says, I use growth edge or upgrade to the next level instead of feedback. Upgrade to the
Okay.
next level really resonates with me.
Yeah, great. Growth edge or upgrade. Data, information, what the coach client thinks about it or chooses to do with it, where the meaning is imported. Jamie, I'm not sure I understand. Could you explain what you mean
Yeah,
there?
so you're just asking us for more sort of neutral ways of like, consider this. And what I what I tend to offer to people is like to kind of de-escalate whatever the for lack of a better term feedback or data information is like it is information, but what you choose to do with it is where you import the meaning into it. So if you're looking at, so for instance, you get an annual, employee viewpoint survey back, and it's 97% amazing, but it's 3% there's areas for growth. And the client is focused on the 3%, like everybody hates me, I'm not doing a good job, I'm terrible. And
Yeah,
I'm like, uh, that's not what the data says, but your feelings are your feelings, of course. But where you are, how do you choose to import the meaning? Which do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on both, the 3% and the 97%? But what are they both saying about you? So that's where it's trying to make it neutral of like, it's just data, it's just information until you ascribe meaning to it.
beautiful. Thank you, Jamie. That reminds me of something I do quite often is I'll say, this is not right or wrong, good, bad, or otherwise. What I'm showing you are options to consider. And then when they practice the different options that I've considered, I support them in feeling into those words. Oh, I like that one. And my mentees start growing their own vocabulary. Um, well, my mentors that I'm training to mentor, they're looking for their mentoring style and they're looking for their own mentoring language as well. So, but back to when I am mentoring my mentee, mentoring, mentee, not. See, playful. See, I've come a long way, right? But back to the point I wanted to make is I've given them feedback that I've scored this particular response as interpretive. You just interpreted what your client said. And what we're wanting more of from you is evoking your client in their interpretation of what they just said. So here we are. We're at this. So, how might you do it differently? And then I shut up and give them the space to think. And they'll try one. And I always lift their first effort. It might not be, but I always say, well, that's one to consider. And would you like some more options? And so I brainstorm with them several options. So there's no right or wrong here. There's no rules at risk. It's you finding how best you want to respond to that coachee. I have noticed, and I think this is human beings. It's like you were saying, Carly, about this reaction to the word feedback. I've noticed that coaches, mentors, they want to make rules. They want to lock into what's the right thing to do. And that's something that I try to open up. There's no right or wrong here. And there's no rule. There's rarely a rule. It depends. And it gets more like that the more you get into mentoring for MCC. Yeah. Okay, what else have we got here?
You know, Fran, if
Yes,
I could
Merle?
just add a little bit and see what you have to say about this, because I find that sometimes in the very beginning, a little bit of rule is useful, and maybe rule isn't the right word. It's how to get the structure of a session, you know, as a beginner, and then as I move along, I can add more nuance. But I'm just
Yes.
curious what you find there.
Yeah, sometimes I use the word training wheels. Go ahead, like particularly with establishing a coaching agreement,
Yeah.
let's really hyper focus on the structure, and practice it. And once you start noticing how well your coachee starts responding, you're going to get more creative, you're going to get more relaxed. So I like to use the analogy of training wheels. Give yourself permission to practice it formulaic. Do it and
Mhm.
practice until it starts getting embodied.
All right,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So I'm looking at the time. There's one more thing I wanted to bring up, and I inserted page 7 and 8 in your workbook, an overview of the requirements now. ICF requires that mentors receive training for mentoring. Okay. And they're calling it mentor coach specialist, MCS. All right. So who knows this is going on? Who knows this is happening? Okay. Louise, is that a question or what's happening? No. Okay.
I have
Jamie?
a question. This is Lori.
Oh, Lori. Okay.
So I had someone, I'm a PCC and I've been since 2014, and I had someone going for the ACC ask me if I could mentor. I went onto the website and it appeared that I was able to do that. And so I did. And so the question is that, did I legitimately mentor her? Can I get the credits this year? Or when does that requirement go into effect?
It goes into effect January 1st.
Okay.
You have to be approved, designated MCS in order for your mentees to be able to apply for their whatever level ACC, PCC, or MCC they're applying for. But you're fine now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will work on that.
Yeah. Jamie?
Yeah, thank you very much for all this information and for your handout. Also, my question is on the new requirements is if you're not on the that path where you've already mentor coached 5 people, but you're kind of on the more beginning level where you would need the 41 hours of CCE in
Yes.
order to mentor coach. Are those 41 hours completely different and separate from the 40 hours that you need as CCEs when you're reaccrediting? So in other words, there's
Yes.
no overlap there. They're completely different. It's a completely different curriculum.
Well, they might be they might earn CCEs,
Right.
but they have to be mentor education training.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking for. So if you take a mentor education training, whoever is delivering that training will have CCEs to offer as
Right.
well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but those will not those only count for the mentor coaching specialization. They don't count for reaccreditation. So they're really two different things. They're
Yes.
completely different things. Okay. Thank
Yes.
you. That's helpful.
Yes. Mentoring for your ACC or PCC or MCC is totally different than a mentor training program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, I see by the great grandfather clock on the wall that it's about time to wrap up here. I just wanted to mention that there is a manual of mentor competencies on ICF. You can download them. There are competencies that we as MCS mentors must adhere to in our mentoring. So that's very useful to download that if you don't already have a copy. In that handout, the very last couple of pages have information about my mentor coach training program. The next one starts in January. And I also have all my graduates of my mentor coach training certified. What a mouthful. My graduates have their profiles in a directory on my website. So if you know anyone who's looking for a mentor, you can send them to the directory on my website. All right. Would anyone like to share a word or phrase, something you've learned, valued, or appreciated?
I love that. Will everybody put a word or phrase in the chat so we can see something you either took out of the call or how you're feeling or anything like that? That'd be fabulous.
It's okay to be playful.
Fran, have you seen Heidi's version of your palm? It's so creative. It's in the chat.
No. Uh,
I was in the emotional intelligence AI session yesterday with ICFLA, so I was having an AI moment. So I did a quick create an image for fun.
Fran's palm. Oh, you are so clever. Oh, thank
It's all
you.
chat GPT. I'm not that
Oh,
good.
that's
I'm not that
amazing,
fast.
Heidi. Oh, will you be sending the chat? I'd love to have a copy of that. Or Heidi, would you send those to me to my email address? Poor, poor, poor.
Sure, no
Please,
problem.
please, please. Please, please, please. I
And
have
this
a
is a
new.
good moment to remind everybody that you can, I believe you can save the chat. Is that correct? You can save the chat. So if you go to meeting chat, to the meeting chat box, if you have that open and you look on the upper right, you see three dots up there, and it should give you an option to save chat.
Save chat. Bravo.
Okay, well, thank you, Fran. That was amazing. You can see by the comments in the chat, it was much appreciated, and your experience and knowledge has been incredible. And thanks to all of you for participating, for attending, for getting involved. We really appreciate it, and I hope you took away a lot from this webinar and upcoming ones. And I will see you all in July. Have a good one.